You know, there's worse things in the world. So that's the first thing people are going to hear when they tune in. There's worse things in the world.
There
There,
is.
there's always worse things in the world.
There is. It's a very good perspective. There's always worse things in the world.
So,
Yeah.
welcome to the Back to Me podcast. There's worse things in the world. That's awesome. I'm going to have to put that in my intros somehow.
Ah,
My ongoing intro will always start. There's worse things in the world. Welcome to
well,
the Back to Me podcast. So I'm super excited. So I've been doing these podcasts once a month for, I don't know, a while. And first of all, I'm going to say I might have to up my game and actually start doing them more than once a month because there's people who've been asking to come on the podcast. And I keep thinking, well, I don't want to tell you August. So obviously I've just got to like do something about that for people, right?
well, and if you
I
enjoy it, then
I
you
do
want
enjoy it.
to enjoy.
I enjoy it a lot. But this month, I'm super excited because I've been waiting so long to get my friend Nicole on. Yay, Nicole! It's now, do I
Yay.
say your name properly when I say Matisse?
No,
Okay,
Matisse, Matt, and
Matisse,
Ice.
Matt, and
But
Ice.
you know what? I go by Matisse too because there's so many people who say Matisse. So I just say, yeah,
Okay, I'll buy it. I'll try harder. I'll try.
okay.
And I put it the intro all about you in the event, but I would love if you just gave me like live and in person the hi, I'm Nicole. And
Okay, hi, I'm Nicole, and
fill in the blank here.
I work with women who feel a little bit dented, bent, and possibly even broken. And they just kind of stuck, and they want to move forward. They want to believe that they are enough to move forward. They don't believe. They don't have. They have something inside. And this, I work with women who primarily were like me,
Right,
and so I help women move from where they are to where they want to be. And it's not just about the tangible goals. It's not about, I want to make this or I want to do this. It's what do I want to be? And how do I want to show up in the world? And I think that there is a conversation in that. I don't I'm experiencing in my coaching business that when you start asking women that, like what is it that you want to be? If they're like me, I didn't even know who I was, let alone
right.
who I wanted to be, because I put on all these masks and I was being all these people and I didn't know who I was. So I work with women to help walk through that process.
Right. And I
And
think that is super common that people, they know, they might know what they don't want, but they kind of get lost on the way to what they do want. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't want this, but well, what do you want? I don't know, just not this.
right.
And that's a process in itself, trying to figure that out, right?
Yeah. And I think in that process, we start to discover who we are. And once we discover, yeah, actually, I talk about looking at the good, the bad, and the uglies. Our society has taught that we kind of don't look at the ugly and we don't accept that they're ugly. There's ugly in us. And yet, there is in all of us because we are not perfect beings. We are human beings. And man, do we ever mess up. But those are such beautiful opportunities for us to say, yeah, you know what? I messed up and I was kind of a crappy person when I said that or did that or treated myself or you like that. And when we come to a place where we can actually say that, there is such freedom in that. There's no more shame.
Well, and I sometimes think like I'm not a crappy person. I just had a crappy moment, right?
Right.
It doesn't define me that I really did something that I didn't Hi, T. T's here. Yay for T. We'll give T a shout out. She
Right?
comes to everything. Um, so yeah, I try to think of it more like instead of identifying with something that you weren't proud of, it's like that's just a moment in time, right?
Right.
That's not your entire existence. So how can you how can you get out of that thing and move to the next thing without bringing all your baggage with you?
I heard a coach just yesterday say, I drive, so my car, I drive a Nissan Altima. I drive an Altima, but I'm not a Nissan Altima, right?
Right.
Like what I participate in, or what I've done, or who I've been, or the things I've done, or my body. I'm just driving this body around, but it doesn't mean that I I am I am that.
Right.
Right? Like, we can change
And
those
it's all
things.
fleeting anyway. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, it
the bo
turns to dust and off we go,
like, the
wherever.
body I had last week's not the same as what I have this week. It's like, I got up this morning going, "Oh, where's my body from last week? Damn it."
Right.
You know, it's
And
like
and I'm sure that you have shared a little bit of your journey with your listeners or
oh,
your
yes.
viewers, and
Yeah,
and yeah, you can literally wake up one morning and go, "Whoa, okay, yeah, so yesterday, that's long gone," right? I
right.
am my body, my brain, my innards are something's changed in there that's
Even you wake up to that, maybe it was something at a time, but you wake up one day and you go, "I don't wanna do this now. I don't wanna do this anymore,"
yeah,
which is like how I en like, I that's how I ended up in coaching, right? Because I was a corporate accountant, and I didn't wanna do that anymore. And it's not that it was a bad place to be, it was just wasn't the right place. So but it was a long, long road because I didn't have a coach to help me figure out how to get what I actually wanted. I had no idea what I wanted. I just started experimenting. I tell people I'm an experimental one. I just started experimenting on myself. Does this work? Does this work? Does this work? And then poof, suddenly, what, 15 years later,
right?
15 years later, suddenly I've found the right spot. Just like that. Nobody's an overnight success, and no matter what they tell you, but there are ways to help yourself not take so long. And I can't remember, when did you get into coaching as
I
like
only
your
got
way
into
of
coaching like last year, but I feel like I've been doing it my entire life. Like,
yeah,
and I really like what you said that, I didn't know that I wanted to be a coach. I knew that there was more for me, and that day, that day, my day was July 17th, 2016. And that day is, I don't remember a lot of dates. I remember my
right.
children's birth dates, my husband's, my parents, our anniversary, like those dates, but I'm really not very good at remembering, oh, on whatever date this whatever happened.
This famous person did something.
Yeah. Even in my own life, I'm like, I don't know when that was. Like, I have no idea. Anyhow, but that date is my date. Is the date that shook my world, and I knew after the dust had settled in that day, and if you want, we can go into that, but whatever. Um,
Tell me, I'm always curious on
after the
what
dust settled on that day, I put my feet on the floor and I went like, this isn't I this isn't the life I want. I don't want to feel like this anymore.
right,
And you, by you saying, like, you kinda stumbled through 15 years of, "Well, what's this about?" And, "Oh, what's this about?" And taking in all that personal development
right.
and really trying to figure out, like what works for me, what resonates with me. Oh, I don't like that. And you can get rid of it. Just
Yeah.
because it worked for me doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. I mean, I do believe that there's some fundamental stuff, like our reprogramming of our brain, like that is fundamental stuff that we can all look at. But
Sleeping and eating are pretty fundamental.
yeah,
I think about because I like the way you're saying like what works doesn't have to work for your whole life and doesn't have to work for every single person.
right.
Because like the program that I do right now is very you're going to make your own plan for what works today and a plan B for when stuff isn't working. But I'm not going to tell you what's like I'm not going to prescribe for you
Yeah.
what your best way to be is because I have no idea. Only you will know. So what happened on that day? I could tell you my day, but you tell me your day.
Well, prior to that, I had kind of been on a little bit of a journey years prior to this. I would say probably almost 10 years ago when I was in my mm, in my early 40s, late 30s. I was actually working with a life coach.
Oh,
And
cool.
I only had a couple sessions because that's all I could afford at the time. And we were kind of working through some body issues. And she asked me a question and she said, "So when did you become s- aware of your body? Like aware that maybe you were feeling overweight?" Or the words that I was choosing to use with myself. And I really had to think about that. And I said to her, "Well, I guess probably about when I was 14." And she said to me, "So what happened to you when you were 14?" And I was like, "Nothing." And she's like, "Yeah, there was something there."
Yeah.
And so again, I had to really go into the vault and go, "Huh." And I said, "Well, I guess there was this incident. Like 14 was when I drank for the first time and I had sex for the first time. And that was all in one day." And she's like, "Oh, okay. Well, explain that to me." So I explained, I went to this party. It wasn't even really, it wasn't supposed to be a party. And I drank for the first time. And I was a tender age of 14 years old. And there was really nobody at this party that I really knew. I had my friend there, my girlfriend. I had gone with her. It was just supposed to be an afternoon at a lake, at one of her friends' lakes. And I said, and I got really, really, really drunk. And I was vomiting, and I wanted her to call one of my friends who I knew lived by. And he came and took care of me. And I remember laying there. I remember laying there with absolutely no strength in my body to physically push this boy off of me. And so what happened happened. But the really interesting thing is I internalized that I was the bad girl, that I
Right.
was dirty, I was a slut. I put myself in that position, and this is how girls like me get treated. And yet, prior to that, I wasn't
Right.
living that lifestyle. And so I kept all that in as a little girl, and I continued my way through and wasn't physically abused by boys. I mean, aside from that and them expecting whatever they wanted from my body and me giving it because that's what girls like I did, right? And then I was blessed enough to meet my husband. Um, and he never ever treated me like that. Um, and so I grew up thinking this is how I get treated. And so then I become a mom, and I'm not taking care of myself, and life goes on and on and on. And then you're sitting with a life coach and she says, "Oh," and you're explaining this all to her and she goes, "Oh, so you were raped." And it was like somebody whacked me in the head, took my head and smashed it against the wall, and I went, "Oh,
Right.
I was raped." Oh my, I had never used that word because I was just the dirty girl, right? And when that I was like, "Oh my gosh." And there was never any like um an emotional relief like not at the time there wasn't. There has been since, but it was like I understand now what I've been doing to myself and allowing myself, right? How my boundaries have been so violated, my physical boundaries, but also my emotional boundaries and all those internal things. And so I was like, okay, well, now I know the route. And so then life continued on for a few more years. And then 2016 hit. And I at this time I have a 16-year-old son and um and a 14 a 13-year-old son. And my 16-year-old was in a he was 1 centimeter from being murdered, and that's actually a measurement. So he was stabbed 4 times with a machete,
Oh my
and that
God.
was on right. And that and believe me, we don't have this lifestyle. Like my kids are good kids. They've never been involved with crime and things like that. He was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. Anyhow, 2016 happened. That was January 2nd of 2016, and the year continued on very much like that. And so I July 17th had happened, and I actually January 4th of that year, I was supposed to start with a new boss, and I did. um, After Carson got out of the hospital and we got him going, I started this new job, and she was a monster. This woman was she like I did not know how to work with her, and she was my supervisor. And anyhow, long story short, we went through months and months of me having extreme anxiety. I never had anxiety. It was never intimidated by people before, and this woman scared the bejesus out of me.
Right.
So I had to go into, I ended up July 17th, 2016, my day. I had just been fired from my job and I was on sick leave at the time. I was on sick leave and they decided to fire me while I was on sick leave, which I might add is against human rights
I was
in
gonna
this
say, I don't
country.
think that's allowed.
No, it's not. So I had to go in and fight for my rights, which I did. But that day I came home and my 16-year-old at the time was at me and at me and at me. And if you've ever had teenagers, you know that
I
nothing
was a
can poke.
teenager.
Yeah, you were a teenager and you were probably the same. They're relentless when they want something. And I kept on saying, Carson, I can't do this right now. Like, buddy, you got to leave me alone. Like I cannot handle. And it was the straw. And he said something. We had an altercation, a physical altercation that um will never happen again in my life. But it was me just breaking. Anyhow, as he was sitting there and my husband has intervened, I just picked up my purse and I walked out of the house. And while I walked out of the house, this this little dog right here, she was a puppy at the time, she jumped in the back seat of my car. And my plan was to end my life. I had left the house to go and kill
Oh
myself.
my
And
gosh.
she jumped in my car and didn't really think anything of it. And so I was driving and I went long, like hours away. And I knew this highway very well. And I was going to just drive myself off a bridge. That was the plan. That was how I was going to end my life. And I would be approaching a bridge and I would be like, okay, this is what I'm ready to do this. And then I would look in my rearview mirror and this little puppy was sitting there just looking at me. And she saved my life because I thought I can't hurt her. And so I got to my end destination, and that was July 17th, 2016. The next day after I obviously clearly didn't end my
Thank
life.
goodness.
Mhm. I was just, and I didn't actually want to die. I just wanted that internal pain and hatred to stop. I wanted that voice in my head of debilitating abuse to just stop. And I didn't know how to stop it. It was
Right.
just playing over and over and over about how what a piece of crap I was in every aspect of my life. And so when the dust settled, a couple days later, I was actually at my mom and dad's house, and I still remember I got up and sat up on the side of the bed, and I can feel the carpet underneath my toes. And I thought to myself, okay, you got to do something, girl. Like, if you don't, you are going to die. And I didn't want to leave my family. I didn't want to do that to my family.
Right.
So, and I remember picking up my head, and there was this picture on the wall, and I looked at the picture and I thought, what can I do right now to start to change? And the only thing I could think of was I can go downstairs and I can feed myself a nourishing breakfast. That's what I can do. That's going to make me feel better. And that's where I started. And then the next step was something else. And okay, what else can I do? And eventually I somehow ended up shifting, and I now know, now that I'm a coach and I've gone through my training and done so much more, about the whole mindset and the cognitive reflex conditioning that we've been taught. I now understand what I was doing, and I was really changing my software inside my brain and
Right.
starting to choose to believe that I was enough and that I was worthy and that I was an incredible woman, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
And my dents and my bents started to straighten out. And I still got a few dents called cellulite, but it's all good, right? Like, and I still have not arrived. None of us ever will.
I
But
don't
that
think
was
that
my
I want
dream.
to arrive though.
I I'm thinking to myself, okay, I think I got this. And then there's something else. And it's like, okay, how do we work through that? That's interesting, right? Like when you can come to a place to say, yeah, I'm okay, even if I am still a little messed up, right? And then using these tools, using my story. Our stories are so powerful. Your story is so powerful. Your audience, everybody has got a story.
Oh my
It may
gosh,
not
yeah.
be, I was ending my life, but it's a story and somebody is going to resonate with that. And if you can use that to make connection with people, then tell it.
And I would never want someone to think that their story wasn't important enough. Do you know what I
Oh,
mean? Like sometimes, because my story is really soft core, really compared to some people's stories. I mean, it was important for me. It was something that
absolutely.
but because I feel like sometimes we get stuck in this, oh well, she had a really worse time than me, so I
Oh,
don't, so it's not important. I'm like, yes, you're important. Of course you're important, and your story is important. Stop trying to compete. Stop kind of, it's like, well, when I
that's
went
right.
to school, I had to walk uphill in both directions with no shoes. I'm like, no, you don't have to compete with how bad things were. Let's just
Right? Whose
continue
bruise was
upward,
bigger? It doesn't
right?
matter. It was a
Oh,
bruise
yeah,
and it hurt.
exactly.
And your story is happening for you. That is
Yeah.
something that I've really learned how to embrace. This happened for me. Do I and now I'm able to take that little 14-year-old broken girl and I'm able to be like, "You know what, girl? You are awesome and you're going to be okay." Cuz when you turn 50, you are going to be making incredible changes in
Right.
the world. And I'm able to tell, sorry,
You go, girl.
this wasn't supposed to happen. I'm able to nurture that little 14-year-old broken girl who is laying on the floor, scared and thinking I disappointed everybody. And and I'm able to take her in my arms and say, "You're gonna be okay, and we got this, and we're gonna do this together," right? Like I've
Right.
learned that self-kindness, and I've been
And the
able to
things that
love
happen to
myself
us,
to that point.
the things that happen to us when we're little, we create a narrative around it, right? We create this story because we don't know what stories to create, right?
Yeah,
Um, and I think it's worse now because now the story gets created for you by social media, um, in some ways. But it's like you create this story around you of this is the truth because this, and you don't maybe have the capacity then to say, "That's bull." Like, "This is actually what happened,"
Yeah.
right? "This isn't true." And it's almost like you're gaslighted. I remember my when I was 14, you and I had some similarity for being 14. Um, I don't know if can you see the comments? T is sending you some love.
Can I
T
see the cameras?
comments. Do you see
Oh,
the
no, I
comments?
can't.
Oh, T is saying
Oh,
thank you for
here,
your
private
there you go.
comments. Oh, there we go. Hi.
There you go. There's
There.
T. Yeah, so I I go to this at I'm just looking at the notes from this morning. So I go to this 9 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah.
Power up, power up. It's there's like anywhere between 4 or 10 ladies. We've never actually met in real life. We go on and we just raise our vibration to start our day. And some stories come out there and stuff comes out there, but it's like this safe space. It's only half an hour. And we always start with, "It's a beautiful day and I'm okay.
I
It's a
love
beautiful
that.
day and I'm okay." No
I'm
matter
actually
what it
gonna
looks
write
like
that
outside,
down.
right? It's a writer downer. It's
I'm writing it down.
Chris Scapatura. Did you ever do Professional Speakers Federation?
Mhm,
The
what's that? Sorry?
part of CCF and Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. It's Professional Speakers Federation, and
Yes.
Chris Scapatura was running it, and he'd always say, "This is a writer downer."
Yeah.
And
There we go.
here's another one for you from today, because it was a good one. The biggest wall you have to climb is the one in your own mind,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So, and I've seen this in my own life where I am like the luckiest woman on the planet to have the partner that I do. I've declared him the GOAT, greatest husband of all time.
Well, I don't know because I have the greatest husband of all time,
But
so
he's perfect for me. It's kind of like self-care. It's like self-care. He
yeah.
is the best person for me to deal with me, and you have
Right?
your best person for you. But
Yeah.
he has unwavering doubt that anything I try, I will do amazing at. And there's me sitting there going, "I don't know. I
Oh,
don't know." He's like, "You're gonna be amazing." I'm like, so so when I feel like I can't, I just kind of grab onto him and off I go and do it anyway.
I love that.
She has
You
the
know,
greatest
and
husband
and it
too.
reminds me of, when I was sitting in the mud puddle, I often talk about this proverbial mud puddle that we often sit in. And we get to make a choice. And sometimes, you know what? Darn it, I want to sit in the mud puddle. I want to have a pity party, but I will not do it. I have set the boundary that I will not do it for more than 24 hours. And
Right.
after 24 hours, I need to stand up and say, "Girl, what is it that you want?" But while I was sitting in this mud puddle for many, many years, and I don't shame myself about that. That's where I was, and that mud puddle was beautiful, and it was what I needed right then. And then I stood up. And then I figured out how to step out of the mud puddle. And then I figured out how to clean myself up. And sometimes I still go back and visit it, and that's okay. But I really needed to lean on those people. And I remember having conversations with those people. What is it that you see in me? Because I don't see it. So I need you to show it to me. I need you to explain to me. And it was my husband, it was my parents, it was my some of my close girlfriends. And now I think of those conversations and I'm like, wow, they nailed that right on the head because that is who I am.
Right. Yeah, and that's like you need someone outside you because you can't see yourself from the outside, right?
Yeah.
All you can hear is the story inside of you and what you're telling yourself. And um, you don't you don't always realize that you're telling the story. Sometimes you think that it's somehow like it's hard to explain it, but I mean, there's a story going on that you're telling yourself, but you are writing it and you can decide to change. the story, right? But sometimes we don't realize we've got the like delete button.
Well, you can keep on writing on the same page.
Oh,
And you
yes.
get to the bottom of the page and then you can start and write over it again. But it's not very clear. Or you can choose to turn the page over and start on a new page.
Right.
And for me, like what I really want to say is that the journey does not have to take you a gazillion years to improve the 4 inches between our ears. It doesn't. It's just consistency, right? It's just that repeat step, repeat, repeat,
Right.
repeat. And it's committing to yourself. And that's what's so astounding about what I've experienced in my own life is that when I made that decision, and it's like, okay, I know the first thing that I need to change is right here. It's right in here. And then how do I do that? And I didn't even know what I was doing. I too, like you, I didn't have a coach at that time,
Right.
but I had enough to go, okay, I know that my thoughts and my internal language is really messed up. And I think that if I can start speaking to myself in a different way, I might be able to then have the capacity to change some other things. And so I started with that. And I actually would say to myself, like I use this example with my clients. I'm walking down a strip mall and you catch your reflection because a lot of my hangups were in my body issues. And I would catch my reflection in a mirror and I would be like, "Oh my gosh, you are so gross." And I actually what I started doing was going, "Stop." And I would say that out loud to myself. Stop. And because when you
Pattern.
do
Yeah.
that,
The pattern
everything
interrupt.
stops in your mind, right? Everything quietens down. And then I would be like, you are this. And I started changing those statements. And then I would act as if. So affirmations are great, but you have to put them into action. Every change requires an action.
Right.
And if you do not act, nothing will happen. You can think about it all you want, but you have to
That was that
then
missing piece of the secret, right? Everybody would do that. I'm visualizing. No, it's not here yet. I'm visualizing.
That's right.
It's like, no, you actually have to visualize it and then go take some steps towards
Take
it,
some
right?
steps, yeah.
It will come to you, but you have to walk towards it too, right? You got to
Well, it's
meet it
like I can
halfway.
think about going to Greece all I want and I can visualize, but until I actually click the button to book something or start putting money away or making a plan, right? Or
At
putting
least
it in my
block it in your
GPS,
calendar or something.
yeah, then it's never going to happen. If I need the GPS to work, I actually have to put my destination in and then press uh, you know, what is it, start or whatever, whatever you press
Directions,
on your
whatever that
GPS
thing is.
directions and then start, you have to press the start. Just because I know where I want to get, unless you press the start, girlfriend, it ain't going to take you there.
No kidding. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what was astounding to me was like, that didn't take me years. Like literally it was consistency for like a year and a half and it started to shift so quickly. It's like that little snowball. You take a few snowflakes and you put them together and then you put some more and you more and then pretty soon the snowball is rolling down the hill on its own and you're like, woohoo.
Right. Well, and it's like you have to, what do they say? The the levels of the just the change, the model of change. First, you got to
Recognize.
recognize,
Yeah, I have it written right here. Recognize, realize, replace, and repeat.
right? Recognize, I think, is the hardest part. Is that
It
the first
is.
one? Recognize, yeah.
Yeah, recognize.
Recognizing that you don't have to be that way, that you don't have to be any particular way, that recognizing that you can actually change what the conversation that you're having with yourself. Um, I did an art therapy at one point workshop because I was still in my land of exploration. I'm trying out everything, and she was doing it as I think she was just, it was like the first time she'd run it and she just wanted to see how it went with a group. And they kept talking about silencing their inner voice, silencing their little voice, silencing their little voice.
Mm.
And I just at one point went, no, I'm not going to silence my little voice because my little voice is me. And my little voice is me when I was scared. And my little voice is still scared. So instead of telling my little voice to shut up, I'm going to nurture my little voice and reassure them that it's okay, that I'm safe now. They don't have to keep doing that. But if I just tell them to shut up, I'm just shutting down part of my life experience. And we are just this giant accumulation of everything that's happened to us. We can put labels on it, good, bad, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is at this point. And I recognize some people have had much more happen to them and that they would label bad, but it's like it all feeds to who you are today, right?
Hmm.
And a that can be used as a place of strength to move forward, right? Instead of something debilitating.
Yeah.
If
I
you
really like that, not silencing that voice, because
Mhm.
I think that for many of us, it's that we were told as a child that we didn't have a voice. In my era, and probably, you're not too much older than I am,
Not
but
too much.
um we were told children were supposed to be seen and not
Oh
heard,
my gosh, I said that just yesterday as I was
right?
walking down the street.
Yeah, and I remember, like, with my growing up, like, I had wonderful parents. My mom and dad had me when they were 19, so they were children themselves, and that's okay. But I remember growing up, it's interesting now when you can reflect on your parents'
Right?
parents, and my so when I moved out of the home, out of my childhood home, and I moved from home in with my husband. um he was my fiance at the time, but we moved in together. Suddenly this anger within me, like I was a bomb that went off, and I had never experienced that before in life. And now that I reflect on it, I know what it is, because as a child I was never allowed to be angry. I mean, if I rolled my eyes at my dad, if I went, "Oh, like you just didn't do
You just
that."
didn't do
If
that.
I talked back, or if I was like, "No," or got mad, or expressed any kind of emotion, it just wasn't acceptable. And not because he was a bad guy, but because that's how he was taught.
Because children were
And
silent.
yeah, and so I was never allowed to have these emotions of anger, and anger comes from fear or frustration, right? Anger is just one of the I mean, anger, there's a reason for anger, there's a reason
Yeah.
why we're angry, but fear or frustration. And then when I got out of my childhood home and I had a man who wasn't keeping me down, and then I would get mad and I didn't have those, "Nope, you can't do that." Then the like, oh, shaking the pop bottle off, right? The lid was off. And I was like, "Holy smokes, I had no idea
He
how
had no
what to do with
self-regulation.
this."
Like, it's like, there's no self-regulator on this one. It's just like
Yeah,
uh-oh, she's loose.
that's right. And and then that carried on, and I was like, I got major anger issues, but it wasn't anger issues. It was that I just didn't know what to do. Why am I feeling like this? Well, fear or frustration, right? And rejection, fear of rejection, fear of, all these fears that we have, or may have. And I spent many years, and now, and so I recognize this not early enough for to be raising my own children. I recognized it probably when they were about, 15, 14. And so I've worked really hard. My husband and I have worked really hard in allowing our children to be like, okay, you can be angry. You cannot like this. You can, you know, thrash and carry on, but you can't behave badly. You can't hurt, but
Right.
you can go off and be angry, and that's fine. And being able to have discussions around that, like, why is this bothering you so much? And I think that when we I don't know how we got off on that tangent, but going back to
So many roads.
kids can be, seen and not heard, and that is a voice that needs to be heard. So I love
Oh,
that
we were
that
talking about the little voice.
the little voice, your
Yeah.
little girl who, no, I'm not going to shut her up, but we can change what she is saying.
I can have a conversation, like, I see her as, like, I'll have a conversation with her to see what's upsetting her. Like, why are you
Mhm.
so worried about this? What's making you so fearful about this? And um and maybe it is one of those, like, well, what happened to you when you were 14 kind of conversations, right? It's like that
Yeah.
voice came from somewhere. It didn't just materialize out of the blue, and it's figuring out, okay, and then what are you going to do with it? Because you can't stay back there. You got to
Yeah.
pick up and carry on. And I was thinking something that came to my mind a while ago. We were talking about we continue to progress. And this is something that I say to my clients all the time. And if they're listening, they've heard me say it so often. It's like, I never want to be perfect because I had a therapist once say to me, imagine the most beautiful rose. I might have said it to you too. Imagine the most beautiful rose there is at its peak of perfection, and then it's going to start to die because it's hit the top and there's nowhere to go. So
Oh,
I don't want to
yeah.
run out of I don't want to
Oh,
run out of
beautiful.
road.
Right? Yeah.
So I will keep blooming, 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 blooming. I won't hit my peak of perfection until
Yeah.
I turn the page and see what happens after.
Well, there's nothing to be learned in perfection. There's nothing to be shared in that. It's like, right? Like, uh, yeah, when we find our voice, like I have, and, I share my story all the time because that is who I am, and you will connect to me through my story. I mean, when we get around and have coffee or sit by a bonfire, we share stories. That's how we
Totally.
connect to each other. And so when I found my voice and my brevity to say, yeah, you know what, this happened to me, and this is who I am. And I did have this experience with my son, and I actually ended up that day when we had an altercation, I actually fisticuffed my son in the back of his head. I'm not that kind of parent. And I just stood there as he was threatening to call the police, and I said to him, "Carson, if you seriously feel like I am over the edge and you are in danger, then you need to call the police. You do." And I would say that to anyone. If I in danger to you or myself, then you need to call the police. But you have to understand as a child that when you make that phone call, even if it's out of anger, there is going to be consequences
It starts a whole
for
ball
all of
rolling,
us, right?
right?
So you need to understand that. And as he was like, I'm not, and he was mad, and my husband was trying to, you're like, okay, all right, trying to diffuse the situation. I stood there and I looked at him and I thought, I hurt the very thing that I would die for today. I have reached my all-time low. And it wasn't just, can have this philosophical talk about spanking and all that. It wasn't that. It was out of pure anger
Right.
that I hit him to hurt something, and it was him. And luckily, that boy, the next day, he was like, "It's okay, mom. I love you." And I actually couldn't even talk to him really for about a week because I was so ashamed of myself. But I found my voice to share that with people because it's like, that's not who I am. And I know
Just a
that. It's
moment,
just a
right?
mistake, but I've learned from it. Oh my gosh, what that 10 minutes of lifetime taught me. And it's
Yeah.
okay. I mean, I still regret it.
We can't rewrite it. You can reframe it,
That's right.
right?
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. You,
Yeah.
you can't change it. You can just take that and let it become fertilizer, fertilizer for something.
Right? Take that SHIT and turn it into fertilizer. Put it on your flowers and let her rip.
And bloom, baby.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I mean, we've been in meetings before, and I've like we don't always have lots of time to talk about life, but holy McMoly, yes, yes,
Conversations, right? And like I said, I just encourage anyone who's watching to find your voice and know that what is going on in your head is just programming.
right.
It's just like taking our disk out of our computer
Remember
and
floppy disks?
realizing that I'm not having a really great user experience. I don't like the software. And then saying, "But I can change that. I can change it."
I need an
My
upgrade.
Right. And then taking it out and getting working with a coach like yourself to get that upgrade. And it can be done. And
Yeah,
it doesn't need to take hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it doesn't have to take hundreds and thousands of hours.
doesn't have to
It
take
can
15, 20 years,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And what
And
have
it
you got
can
going on right now? Like you're in a, is it the marathon is still on for a
the
couple more days?
more-a-thon, which is a 3-day
Marathon.
summit. One of my Actually, it was funny because I grew up with Sherry Cameron, who is the owner of the Pathway to More. And I grew up with her and then lost contact for many, many years. And we were in a CCF coach training, one of
Oh,
our
she was in CCF as
certifications.
well. Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
and she was in one of the trainings, and she saw I used to have my maiden name in, and she was like, "I think we might know each other." And so we instantly connected, of course. We were friends way back when we were itty bitty girls, and I used to ride horses with her, and our friends were parents. And anyhow, so she is putting on her summit, and it's called the Morathon.
I can't for some reason type comments in, so people are just gonna have to remember.
Yeah. If you go to my Facebook, there'll be you can still get tickets. It's still going on. It's going on right now,
Yep.
and will tomorrow. And so there's 24 speakers. But what's really, really cool about what she's done that I've been in a lot of summits is that she is taking the purchase so you can upgrade to a VIP ticket for $47, get all the recordings, over $5,000 worth of free gifts. But what's really cool is she's taking that money that people are paying for a VIP gift, and she's turning it back and she's gifting it back. So everybody who purchases a VIP gift, so to you can get a free ticket, that's fine. But if you upgrade, then you will be entered into a draw for $500 to be spent with a professional of your choice.
That's cool.
Isn't that awesome?
That's super
And
cool.
she said that when she surpasses that, she may be drawing for more of those. So Sherry is just like she's a champion of people, and so I love that she's giving it back. But oh my gosh, the information that the speakers are just so
Right?
good, so good.
And do they Google marathon or do they Google Sherry?
Um, they are going
Or can they go to your website?
They can get it on my Facebook. Can I put in a comment?
Well, right, usually I can type the comments in. There's something wrong with the
Um,
comments right now. So everyone who ever watches me knows I have constant technical difficulties.
um, how do I do this? I wonder if
Well, I can put it after the fact in the comments, like once. Oh, actually, you know what?
I'm
I could go over to Facebook right now. I'm going to go over there right now. The Morathon, the, and I'm
Oh,
watching
if you
myself do it.
actually if you type in okay, so if you go oh, there it is. I just Googled marathon and the link to reserve your spot is up. So it's if you actually go to the pathway to more summit.com
The Pathway to More Summit.
you will get it. Or I just Googled marathon and it gave me the link. There you go. Who knew?
Who knew? Well, so much technology
Yeah.
there. So,
So it's going on for the rest of the day. I think until what's our until 4:15 is our last speaker who comes on. And then all day tomorrow we have yeah, until from 9 to 4:15. So you can get your free ticket. And then
right?
if you want the recordings and all the gifts and your free ticket will still give you a bunch of free gifts. Like every speaker has a free gift.
And even so they'll get yesterday's recordings too, right? Because didn't you
They get
speak
all of
yesterday?
them. And
Didn't
and each
didn't you, the
VIP ticket,
celebrity Nicole, speak yesterday?
I did speak at 9:45 in the morning. Um yeah, every VIP ticket also so every VIP also gets an additional gift. So you get the
Oh,
free gifts and then you get additional gifts and then you get the recordings and then you get to be entered
it's
into the
just
draw. Like it's
bonanza.
just yeah, so that's what I'm up to right now.
Cool. That's so
Yeah.
awesome. Now, so I did manage to find the marathon. I posted it into one of the feeds. So I'm gonna go
Oh,
through the
there you
feeds
go.
and post it up. I posted it as me over there on the Facebook,
Yeah, over
over
there.
there on the
Over
Facebook.
there.
But I'll go through the other ones as well, and I'm gonna put it in there, and I'm gonna put your website in there too,
Oh,
because
thank
there's gonna
you.
be people who think I love Nicole and I want to
Aw.
talk to her more.
Okay, that
It's
would
a
be great.
it's a real
Yeah.
thing. It's a real thing, my friend.
I have a new document. So if they actually email me too, um, you can. I don't have my link working at the moment. It will be hopefully next week. Once
Technical
again, Heather,
difficulties.
technology. But yeah, if you do email me, my email is on my website. Then you can get that free document that talks about that assertive language and how to use it. And then I also have free try me on sessions so you can actually just have a
Oh,
free conversation to see if we connect. We
I
can
call mine
chat,
coffee chats.
coffee chats.
Yeah, you can book a coffee chat with me, a virtual coffee chat.
Yeah. Except you shouldn't call it a coffee chat because you're not a coffee drinker, you're a tea drinker.
No, but they don't know what's in this cup.
No, now we don't. Maybe it's neither one of those. It is, well, what time is it there? 4 o'clock there.
It's
It's
almost four
almost
o'clock.
2 o'clock here. So you
As
might
they
be into
say,
some other happy juice.
it's always past noon somewhere.
Well, isn't it Margaritaville? Is it Margarita time somewhere? Or what is
Wasting
it? What
away
does
in
Jimmy Buffett
Margaritaville.
sing? I don't
Wasting
know.
away in Margaritaville.
Yeah.
He never said what
Wasting
time of
away.
day it was.
Oh,
I don't think he said what
yeah.
time of day it was. I think he was just, stepped on a pop top, Taurus flip flop, something like that.
Yeah, I think if the saying goes it's margarita time anywhere in the world or something. It's always margarita. I don't know, something like that. I don't know. I should shut up.
Pick your time zone. That's all I say. What do you want?
Yeah,
Pick a time
yeah,
zone.
yeah, yeah. So, well, thank you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I'm so
So enjoyable.
happy that I got to have you and have a conversation with you. Have
Oh,
you present to share your story. Even it was even more than I was expecting.
oh, that's so good. I was. It's what a great way to just interact, yeah, I was so nervous,
I
not
know.
lying. I was so nervous. Well, you do know because I get all wrapped up in the details, in the whole like I'm not perfect and it's not perfect. And Heather you're so good. You were like, don't worry, just send me what you have. And I'm like, oh, no. But I did. But I
We're
did,
we're 2
kind of.
ends of the seesaw. I'm the winging it, and you're planning it.
Yeah,
So,
we need to come together. And
yes.
we did, and we did, and it worked out, and it was such a great conversation. And I loved learning a little bit more about you too and your journey. And
And it'll be ongoing, as we say,
yeah,
ongoing.
I look forward to further collaborations. And what do you have going on? Like,
Well, mine is called Back to Me, and we are almost halfway through it. Well, we're 2.5
mm,
weeks into it. Um, so it's going super well. T is one of our Back to Me ladies.
aw,
And yeah, so I'm really, really enjoying it because I'm finding that, I mean, even pre-COVID, people would tend to, you know, when they need to be in community, like you asked your friends, you asked your family, when you need to be in that community for support, you don't always ask for it. And the last 2 years have been insane where people can't even, if they have, like, they don't even know how to get out there and get a community. So I'm like making a community where people
good
can
for
come
you.
and
Yeah. We weren't created to walk life alone. We were created to be together. And from being a person that has, clearly in my story suffered with debilitating depression, there were days when I always got out of bed to look after my kiddos, but I'd go back to bed after
right.
they were in school, right? And there was times when I would call my husband and say, I don't think I'm going to make it. Like, honestly, this is going to sound really terrible, but there were times that I was thankful that we didn't have a gun in the house. And I would
Right.
call him from work saying, I need you to come home. I and he was my rock. Well, he was one of my rocks. I have a couple of them. Um, but when you are in depression, so many I had a doctor once say to me, just get up and go to the gym, you'll feel so much better. And I was like, you went to school for 7 years to tell me this?
Right.
Like, if I could get up and put on clean panties, that would be a great start. Like, if I could get clothes on and function,
It's like
boy,
one
I'd love
thing.
to get to the gym. Thanks, tips.
Right.
And it's because we seclude ourselves. We don't want to be around people, and we're not created to do that. So good for you for creating community that brings people together, to be authentic, to be real, and to share our voices.
And to support each other, like, a
Yeah.
big part is I want people to feel like they're supported.
Yep.
T says the same thing. She had that bad stretch of staying in bed too.
Yep.
Maybe it's a thing we have to pass over. Like, I don't know, right? It's just
Well, I don't wish it on anybody, but yet
no,
and what I love about our society now is that we do have, the bell talk day, but every day is a bell talk day. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And and I was saying to a girlfriend, actually it was Sherry that I was saying, the marathon lady, we were talking about the Me Too movement. And I said, the more and more I talk to women who are dented, bent, and broken, I realize that we have so many more Me Too moments: depression, anxiety, that internal talk. Like, there is so much we have in common. Our stories might be different,
right.
but the base of who we are and what we want to achieve in life is really, and I'm sure you experience that in your community.
And I think that, part of the way that we don't serve ourselves or our families or our communities is trying to hide it. So we all have it. We've all had a bunch of those experiences, not all the same. but we don't, it's like we don't want to show them. We don't want people to see them because
Yeah.
because what will that make us? Like,
Yeah.
what label will that
Right?
give us, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And T says that it took her 7 years to find a great medication, but her husband never gave up on her. Thank
She's
goodness
got a
for
goat
good.
too. Yay for goat.
Yeah, good for you, girl. And I personally want to live in a world where especially, I mean, we're not tearing each other down, and it just seems like what's going on now is just we're so busy. We are not, but the world is so busy tearing each other apart because of our voices and what we may or may not believe in. And it's like I don't want to be a part of that.
Right,
I want to lift women up because for all of time women have been torn down, and that is my desire, to watch you rise
right.
and to say, "Atta girl, go get them,
Yes.
shine your light and
Do you
be who
remember
you
that Friends
are."
episode? Do you remember the Friends episode? "You're stealing my wind."
Yeah. Yeah, no, there
We're
is
not stealing
lots
wind.
to be had. Yeah.
It's a rising tide lifts all ships, right? So
Yeah.
let's just lift each other up. Like, that's why I do the podcast with all my friends. I'm like, come and talk to me. Come and talk to me because I'll learn something. People will learn something. We can share, we can connect, and we just keep shining the lights, baby.
So you have inspired me. I've actually been thinking maybe I could do this podcast thing. Like maybe, right? Whew, maybe I could do this. Like it's
Do
so
it. Do it.
interesting. Yeah. So I got one project on the go right now. As you know, I'm
As I
easily
know.
overwhelmed. So we just focus on one thing, we tidy that up, and then we'll do another. So it will come. But I'm
When you're
like, yeah,
ready, call me. Call
call
me.
you. I know where to find you. Yeah. Awesome.
Awesome. Okay.
Hey, friend. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Hearts for you, my friend.
Yeah. Blessings.
And thanks everybody for coming in and out and leaving hearts. And I will also be uploading this into my podcast on Apple and Google Podcasts.
Awesome. Everyone, I just want you to know that you are indeed enough
You
today
are
in this
definitely
breath.
enough.
See you
Thanks,
later.
Nicole. See you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.